Well, welcome back, everyone. This is the Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You podcast. My name is Sean Langwell, and I'm your host. And today we've got a very special treat. I've got Crissi here to talk about her journey with food addiction and food recovery. And this show was started for the sole purpose to be able to reach people, especially those who like honest, real conversations about what it takes to not only become great, but self-confident and bold enough to be yourself. And that's what this show is all about. Each of my guests started out as ordinary people like you and me and have accomplished extraordinary things in their lives to be considered great masters or experts at what they have been called to do. In this case, it's about following your heart and being vulnerable to make some changes. And I'm not going to read the whole introduction here. What I'm going to do is jump right in to a meaningful conversation with Crissi. Crissi, welcome.
Thank you.
You know, you've been very open about your food recovery journey, and I've witnessed firsthand what this has been. And I'm going to let you do most of the talking here, but talk about where you were at, what happened, and where you're at now.
Okay, I have not I never thought of myself as somebody who struggled with body issues and weight issues or whatever, but when I look now that where I am in my recovery, I realize that this is really something that I've struggled with all my life, just in different forms. When I was a teenager, I spent one summer only eating wheat thins, and I took it as that was all I could eat, like I just couldn't, there's something wrong with me. I couldn't eat it. No, it was like it was basically a form of anorexia. I was totally starving myself, and I liked the way that I was losing weight and getting twig thin, but I still thought I was fat, like I always thought I was fat. Even as a little kid, I always felt like I was the biggest person in the room once I became aware of the differences in bodies. And usually, when you become aware of differences in bodies, it's because somebody's made some kind of comment, like, being told, that you still have your baby fat, or
Mm.
being praised because your body has suddenly shed some pounds. And you kind of absorb those things in different ways. And so I've always had these little messages that society gives you, that your family gives you. Um, that you just absorb it and react in certain ways. And for me, it was trying to control the way that I looked, or not caring, or being very self-conscious and always just feeling on the outside. So I always had that insecurity inside of me. I think when it ramped up the most was in my 20s. After I first of all, well, actually I should back up. Before I had kids, I was rail thin. I was like 97 pounds, and this was due to poverty starvation. There just wasn't any food. I lived on top ramen because that's all we had the money for. And I liked what it did to me. I mean, as sick as it was, I'm sitting there starving and so hungry, but I was so thin, and that felt really good. And when at the end of that whole stint, I moved back to my parents' house and started eating everything because I could, and also found out that I was 12 weeks pregnant, which I had no idea I was even pregnant at 20, because my period had stopped because I wasn't eating. So how was I to know? So
Wow.
it's like I find out when I'm like 3 months pregnant with my firstborn. Um, and of course my body changed. I gained 80 pounds in that pregnancy. And I got uncomfortably large with my second pregnancy, same deal. And then it just became this whole entire yo-yo thing of me gaining a bunch of weight, losing a bunch of weight, gaining a bunch of weight, losing a bunch of weight. And the only way that I knew how to lose weight was basically to starve myself. The famous thing is to live on the 1,200 calories, which is not enough for anybody to live on. I would do Jillian Michaels exercises, running. I got, I kept on doing the whole yo-yo thing. Um, and then after I got married, I just kind of got tired of it. and nothing I was doing was helping. I was in a happy marriage, so I mean, happiness. Eating is always a celebration. Uh, so I was eating, 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 and then I'd, restrict, 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 lose some weight, gain more weight. And it was just this whole entire thing to the point where I finally got up to like, I was almost 200 pounds when I realized something needs to stop. But I didn't know how to. I'd already done Weight Watchers, I'd done South Beach, I'd done, taken all grains out, did the paleo diet. I've used laxatives. I've used, just like every single thing. The last thing that I tried was I went to my healthcare provider and said I wanted to get on Ozempic, and she wouldn't do it. But she did put me, I was pre-diabetic at that point. She put me on something called metformin. Didn't do much of anything except give me stomach issues. And I was just miserable. And so we get to this point where I don't know what to do. I'm at a total loss. And Sean had been talking to me about, maybe possibly your answer might be in a 12-step program. And I'd been, I don't have a problem. I have a willpower problem. I just don't have a problem with food. It's not the food. It's, just because I can't stick to the rules. I'm always wanting to break the rules.
Right.
Um, but finally, there was this one weekend where I started di being curious enough to look into it. And I was going to house sit at a friend's house, and I decided that that was the weekend that I was going to check out a meeting to a 12-step program. And I went there, and then I heard people telling my story like over and over and over again. And it was so emotional. Just because for the first time I got to realize that this wasn't a me issue. It wasn't something that I was doing, but it's because I'd lost the plot, basically. I didn't know, I didn't have the control that I thought that I did, that the food was controlling me. I couldn't even go, like at work, we have a break room that was full of, it was always full of something. People would bring their leftover foods in there. People would be like, oh, we were just thinking of you. Here is a whole entire box of cookies, or here's some donuts, and I could not go in that break room without taking one thing and then taking another and taking another. And I would time my times to go into that break room, um, so that nobody would see me, so that they wouldn't know that I was taking way more than my fair share. But I wasn't a food addict. I didn't
So
have a problem.
the hiding and the sneaking around,
Oh my gosh.
somewhere to
And
work.
I would go in my office and just like cram it down. And I would hate myself while I was doing it. And I wouldn't even be enjoying the food because I'd want to eat it so fast so that nobody could know that I was eating it. Because all I could think of is there's more in there. And if I don't eat them, they're going to go to waste. So it's my responsibility to eat them.
And this is tough too. I mean, I've got a long time in alcohol recovery, and you don't really necessarily think about this because we need food for sustenance, but you're talking about stuff that is you got to have more. I mean, everybody
Hmm.
has certain triggers. At least drugs and alcohol are a little easier to understand. But
Hmm.
what was it like what were some of the feelings there of going in and seeing a big box of donuts and people always offering these fun things? How did you deal with it? And
It,
yeah,
the feelings that I had was this equal amount of being so elated about it and feeling so much dread about it, because I would feel chained to needing to eat it. And if I didn't eat it, I would constantly, my mind would be on it, obsessively on it. And I couldn't
even
think
if you
about it
weren't in
until it
there
was gone.
facing it or smelling it, you'd be thinking about, oh, I know there's more in there.
The whole time. And so if I would, refrain from eating it, eventually I would end up eating it because I would constantly be thinking, you're just going to go in there and eat it. So why don't you just go get one? Like, stop. Why are you putting off this torture of yourself? You might as well just go eat it. And I
Right.
wouldn't even be hungry, and I'd have to go eat it. And it was just this constant grazing, the constant need to put something in my mouth. The anytime I felt a feeling, I would have to eat something just to, kind
Happy
of
or
numb it.
sad, any kind of emotion?
Happy, sad, bored. That was a big one. Bored,
Boredom.
go eat.
Boredom.
Yeah.
Snacking.
Make that was my entertainment. It saved me from myself was the eating. It gave me something to cling to.
Talk a little bit about that because those for people who aren't where you're at now, it's taken you a while to get to some of that introspection. But what do you mean by saving you from yourself?
Okay, so I one of the things that I have realized about myself is there was a long time in my life where I couldn't, if you were to ask me what I was feeling, or any kind of emotion, I could not name it. I couldn't name what was bothering me. I couldn't name why I was mad, or sad, or any of those feelings. And also I was scared of those feelings getting bigger. And I've realized now that the reason for that is because as soon as I'd start feeling a feeling, I would distract myself from that feeling by eating. And the eating, what it was my drug. It was the numbing agent that helped me to not have to actually feel that feeling,
Mm.
and to actually name it, to know why I was mad or sad, who I was mad or sad at. Um, Especially if I was to blame for anything, like, I mean, that's a whole nother, we could go on that one and,
Well, we
later on,
want to
but
touch on that because that is a crux of what a lot of people who face addiction deal with is I call it the blame game, the blame
yeah.
shame game. It's a ping pong match with yourself. Blame, shame, guilt. And society doesn't necessarily make it any easier, but bring it back to you because you and I have had numerous conversations on this and the growth that I've seen with you having a program of recovery is phenomenal. But bring people back into the before that because this is
Mhm.
where people live. And I watched you for however long we've been together do the yo-yo and try and do the self-will game. And it's not necessarily the first stop or decision that most people make is to check in or do some type of a recovery program because we want to be strong and resilient. So keep talking about what some of those feelings are because you're going to reach some folks out there that are going to feel exactly how you did, and you're going to give them an opportunity to reach out and find some solutions for themselves.
Well, I think I've lost the plot of what you were talking about, but I will say that a big part of my addiction was, my perfectionism,
Okay.
and not being able to see my own faults, or where I may have caused issues, where I was to blame. I was really quick to know when somebody else wronged me, or when they weren't acting in my best interest, or any of that. Like, I could point the finger all day long, and I was blameless. Like, there, I was a victim. If there was something that was wrong, it was one-sided. Every single thing was one-sided, and it was not my side. My
Mhm.
side was totally clean. Um, and it took me coming into recovery. Part of the 12 steps is looking at our part of it, and that was so uncomfortable because when I first started, I'm like, well, there is no part, because look at what this person has done, what this person has done. I'm not naming names, but there were people in my life that I felt were, the reason that I was eating. And it took a while, but I was able to actually turn things around and be like, oh, well, okay, that behavior is something that I exhibit. And, this actually isn't one-sided. And oh, I may have caused that. And let me tell you that the mind shift that happens when you're stuck in victim mode and everybody else is to blame, you lack control. Like, everything is out of your control because it's in all these other people's hands of why your life is a mess. And then as soon as you realize your side of the road, and the things that you need to clean up, and the things that you need to take ownership of, and where you need to make amends, and where you may have wronged somebody, your life starts to take on this semblance that wasn't even possible before, because suddenly, and there's a whole spiritual side to this, but there's also just the control of, you know, I have done wrong and I can clean my side of the road. And I just have like this level of calm that I didn't have before
But
because it's
that wasn't easy, right? I mean,
no,
you touched
it still
briefly on the
isn't easy.
spiritual. It's not easy, but how pair this up with the spiritual aspect because that's the self-will, spiritual, higher power, whatever it is that you want to call it, whatever people gravitate towards. That's a challenge for a lot of people because
It
we're so
is.
entrenched in self-will or willpower that that's the solution. And to let go of that is not normal for most people. That's a big
Okay.
common struggle for a lot of people.
So I want to preface this with that this is the 12-step way of thinking, and I am not going to sit here and claim that any health journey is the health journey that you
Good
need
for
to
you.
take.
Yep.
And if thinking of things in spiritual terms turns you off, that's, I'm not going to say that this is the path for you.
Yep.
I can only speak to what I have experienced and what has worked for me. And before I came to OA, I had left the church. I had a very big issue with spirituality, mostly in the way that it was being exhibited by people who claimed to be spiritual. But I also had an issue with God, and God and we were hanging on by a thread. I mean, there was never, I would never call myself an atheist, but it was damn close to me throwing everything out. And in between the time and even in the beginning of OA, I was trying on spirituality by size and just seeing what worked for me. I did all the woo-woo stuff. I have a whole entire thing of crystals upstairs. The full moon would come, I'd have a whole ritual going. And I am not saying that those things are wrong, because they're not. And I think that everything can be spiritual. Um, but I was just trying on different rituals to see which one was the right fit for me because the um the Christian way that I was raised wasn't jiving with me, especially with and I'm going to get very specific here with the way that um the the strong conservative Christian types leave out certain demographics and groups and humans for their own agenda. It pissed me off. It doesn't align with how I think. And so when I came into OA and they start talking about this higher power and giving it to God and all this stuff, all I could think of was I'm about to be brainwashed again. And that was my honest to God truth. And I was very open with my sponsor about how horrible this felt and how like she would constantly be like, what does higher power have to say about that? And I'm just like, fuck if I know, because like, look where I am, like this isn't like, and it just felt so forced.
Yeah.
So it took a long time. In fact, I couldn't call God. I couldn't call higher power, but I eventually came to calling higher power, higher love, which is also cheesy in its own way because there's that whole song with higher love and all of that and
Yeah.
whatever. I know. But it made me, like when I think about what God is to me and what a God of my own understanding is it's a God of love, and it's an energy that exists in every single person, regardless of where they stand on the, societal moral standing. And regardless of the entity of what it is. I mean, God is in the tree, God is in my cat, God is in these plants right here, God is in me and you and everybody and everything that we're touching and the air that we're breathing. And so thinking of God just as love was my first step towards getting to a place where God was accepting and God spoke to me with a loving voice. And God never told me, you're too fat. Why are you doing that? Or you're not able to do that because your body is a certain shape, or that food is bad, or that food is good, or you can only eat 1,200 calories. God was more like, you are worthy of
Hmm.
eating healthy and treating your family or your body good, you are worthy of being loved by others. You're worthy of loving others. You're accepted. Just all positive messages. And I still struggle with this. I still will get like super hard on myself. And my sponsor, who is just, I mean, I couldn't have chosen a better sponsor. She's constantly reminding me to stop being so hard on myself, that I don't need to make all these rules. I'm a rule person. I come from diet culture. Rules, I can make a ton of rules to live by, and I do all the time. And my sponsor's right there to say, Crissi, calm down. What does higher power have to say? And higher power always is a gentle, calming, loving, accepting voice to me.
I love that. A gentle, calming, loving, accepting voice. So, and I'm so appreciative that you're sharing this publicly, because this is a challenge for a lot of people, whether they've got a program of any kind or not. But what has changed specifically outside of the 12 steps directly, but how has your recovery shaped and reshaped not just your body? You look as good as you've ever looked in your whole life, and I love you regardless. But how has it not just changed your eating habits, but your whole mindset about life and your role in it?
Um, I've really been focused on um not being super self-absorbed, and it's a daily struggle. And I'm not always my best self in that, but I'm striving for it. And I know that when I do start getting too self-absorbed or too hyper focused on things or whatever, that's when I feel my most compulsive, and I'm not my best self, and so I have to take some steps back. I also am learning how to create boundaries around myself, to protect my energy and protect my health. A lot of it does have to do with food. I mean, food situations are all around the place, and I have to be really strong about what I do and I don't eat. And it may feel strange to other people of why I can't eat something. Like maybe I'll eat something on one day and then another day I don't because it doesn't feel safe. Well, that's only for me to I don't need to explain myself if something doesn't feel.
For those who are here, I mean, you've already talked a little bit about some of the different diet plans, but what is your strategy? Because people need to know this. And this is something that you and I struggled with, because I just have a hypermetabolism, probably because I'm chewing Nicorette gum and I drink coffee like a fiend. So I have natural, whatever you call it, and I'm just high strung, but I don't hold weight the same way that other people do. But what is your quote unquote, not diet, but what are your eating habits? What
Okay.
works for you right now?
Okay, so my very first and foremost rule is this is day at a time. I'm not thinking of this in long-term goals because when I was in diet, it was like, well, I need to lose 50 pounds by November 4th, or I every day I need to eat only this many calories, or I can never eat ice cream again. And then you get into those hard set rules and those long-term rules, and you start going through this grieving process of, what do you mean I can never eat ice cream again? Then all of a sudden you reach for the ice cream and you can't stop eating it because it could be the last time ever. Or you go through the binge of I'm giving this up tomorrow. Diet starts tomorrow. So today I'm going to do all of this or whatever. So the only way that I can do this is today, this is what I'm eating. And I make a plan for myself every single day. Every morning I have planned out my food for that day and I send it to my sponsor. And that is the food that I'm eating that day. Now, as far as rules go, the way that I eat is 3 meals a day, no snacks, and I don't eat sugar because I've identified sugar as a problem ingredient, and it keeps me from. I know that if I were to eat sugar, I would overindulge on it. So
Hmm.
for 2 years, I have not had sugar. I don't miss it. In the beginning, it was really, really hard. Sugar feels like a drug to get off of. I don't miss it at all because it's out of my system. And the few times that I've had something like something with, I don't know, like ketchup or whatever, and realized, oh no, this, I can't have this. Um, I'm repulsed by it. Like it just doesn't, I don't want it. And then also because I have so much distance away from sugar, when I think of like eating ice cream, which used to be my favorite thing to indulge on, um, I am also able to remember what it felt like after I had had way too much of it, and
Mhm.
the icky feeling that's inside of me. And I don't want that. I'm able to, we call it thinking through the bite. What's it going to feel like afterwards? Um, and it doesn't feel good. And I remember that. So I think through the bite and realize I don't want that anymore. I don't want to get too full. Like my meals are one plate of food that, is a normal. I eat normal. I still have, occasionally I have a burger. I have French fries. I have those things, but I have my one plate, and I eat enough that will make me feel satisfied in a sitting, and then nothing else until the very next meal. And this is different than what I used to eat. I used to graze in between. There was no stopping point. I'd eat my meal and then I'd snack all throughout the day, to the next meal. And I never really felt what hunger felt like, And now it's like I never let myself get super starving, because that also leads to issues as well. And
Sure.
when I say 3 meals a day, I don't mean 2 meals a day. I don't skip meals. I do not do intermittent fasting or any of that kind of stuff. It is 3 meals a day at their specific times. It does not change. I eat a lot of the same foods, like breakfast, my steel cut oats and a yogurt. I love it. I look forward to it every single day. On the weekends, I indulge in a English muffin with butter, with bacon, and with 2 eggs. Like those are my breakfasts. And that's what I have like every day, every weekend day. And then it doesn't look different, but it's foods that I enjoy. And I don't starve myself. And I also don't overindulge.
But the difference is you look different. Since
Mhm.
you started this journey in July 2 years ago, tell people how much weight, and the goal was not to lose weight. The goal
No.
was to gain, to eat healthier and to not be
Well,
obsessing about food, right?
right. Okay. So we have a saying in our this 12-step program. You come for the vanity, stay for the sanity. And
Come for the vanity, save for the sanity. I like that.
I absolutely came to this 12-step program as another weight loss program. This was going to be the new Weight Watchers, and going to help me shed weight. And it did help me shed weight, but uh, it also helped me shed a lot of other things that were way more important, and the things that I was hanging on to that was weighing me down. I've lost 50 pounds in the 2 years that I've been a part of this. I actually lost a lot of the weight in the very beginning, and the last year has just been a little trickle, but I found peace at that, because I also I'm eating what's comfortable for me and still losing weight, but it's more like a pound every 4 months, so it's not like anything major. But it has also changed my health journey has also included a change in my movement. Exercise has I've always had this like a block against exercise. And exercise, the sole reason I would exercise is to lose weight. There was no other reason for it. I did not enjoy it. I
Mm.
hated exercise, but it was a way to punish myself into thinness. And sometimes it worked. Um, but then I'd hear, like, you'd get on, like you hear all of these coaches on social media, and you get, oh my gosh, social media is the worst when it comes to like health advice. There's so many conflicting reports, and one of them is that exercise is not going to help you lose weight. Um, and there's like a whole thing about it, because there is truth to that. It really is about what you're putting in your mouth. It's calories in, calories out. If we're going to put these in black and white terms. But what I heard when I'd hear health coaches say that is, there is no reason for you to exercise, because it's not going to help you lose weight. So Not going to exercise. In
Yeah.
fact, I better not exercise, because if I gain muscle, I'm going to gain weight, and also I know my body type and I know my energy, and there is no way that I am going to be able to exercise enough to be able for it to do any kind of difference at all. So what's the point? I'm just not going to do it. I hate it. So,
But what happened with the shift, because you started taking up running again, and that was a big block for the past because you had different motives behind it. But
mhm.
what happened with your running? I mean, you said
Okay, well,
earlier.
when I mean, in the 2 years that I've been in this, when I first started, I used to tell my sponsor, and I'm going to do this exercise, and I'm going to do this exercise, as part of my plan. And she'd just be like, okay, uh-huh, okay, Chrissy. She didn't say much about it, but it's like I wasn't doing it, and eventually I just stopped mentioning it, and I'd feel all this guilt over the fact that I wasn't pairing exercise with this, because I felt like it was another one of those rules that I had to do. And I finally had to get to the point where I can't focus on movement right now. Like, movement is not part of my journey right now. It needs to just be about the food. I need to heal the food right now. And once I get to a point where I can do exercise, then I'll do it. But I put it off for a long time. And the running thing has really only been recently. So, that's about a year and 3/4 of me not doing consistent exercise. I'll walk here and there, I'll ride my bike, I would do some yoga, but there was nothing consistent happening, and definitely no change in my body from any of these things. And so I didn't really see much of a point. Um, I used to run. I've never been super great at it, but in the times that I was running, it brought me this sense of accomplishment that and I was starting to see, like, we'd be driving down the road and I'd see people running, and I'd look at them with like this wistfulness of like, I wish I could do that. Well, I
Mhm.
can do that. And I was thinking, I'm 47 years old, and I was thinking, at 47, you don't want to start running because you're old.
Give me a break.
I know. I've been saying I've been old since I
You're
was like
not old.
31. So, I'm in this aging body. I'm in perimenopause. I'm, going through all of these body changes. My knees are weak, whatever. Um, but also what I've noticed, because I shed the weight, I have so much more energy now that and it surprises me sometimes. There was this one time that Sean and I were driving somewhere, and we'd passed by this little free library, and I made Sean stop down the road because I'm like, there's a book in there that I want. And I ran to the little free library, and the feeling of running, even in that short distance, it was so brand new. I Because I was so used to my body getting in my way and feeling exhausted. But all of a sudden, it's like, when you lose 50 pounds, you're losing 50 pounds of what you're carrying around every single day. And it does change the way that you move. And I'm not going to sit here and put a hierarchy on body sizes and whatever. There are different body sizes and everything, but this is just a fact of the matter in my life, that losing 50 pounds helped me to not be carrying around that suitcase while moving around. So running there, I was like, oh my God, I can run. Like, I actually, maybe I can do more of this. And it was shortly after that I started my running regimen. And I've been running now for 3 months, I want to say.
Something like
And yeah, and so when I started out, and it was, it was a program. I used the Runna app, RUNNA, and I love it. Actually, I really love it. It's kind of like Couch to 5K, which I used to use, but there's hold on, there's like a whole thing on how to get you to go do pacing, and then they also have like different exercises that you can do around it and stuff. When I first started running and I did the intervals, I would do the running, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to start walking. And and it would just be like little short distances, and then walking, and then running, and then walking. I'm now running 2 to 3 miles every single time that I run. I am limiting myself to only, I was doing 3 days of running. I'm now down to 2 days of running and adding in some strength exercises. and yoga for mobility. But I'm not exercising to lose weight. Like, I will say, like, a nice little side effect is my body is changing. And I'm not going to say I really haven't lost, I've lost maybe 2 pounds in this whole entire thing. I've not really lost much weight, but my body has shifted in ways that I love. It's been a nice little side effect, but that is not the reason that I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I love when I get to that runner's high feeling. It almost always happens. It doesn't always happen. Some days I'm like, oh my God, can this just be over?
Hmm.
Um, I love the feeling that once I'm done, I go in my kitchen, get my glass of water, and I can feel my body starting to cool down and the sweat pouring off of me. And it is a delicious feeling. Like, it just feels so good. And that's one of the reasons that I love running. And then I also just love the accomplishment part of it. Just like, it never fails to amaze me that, Crissi, you just ran a 5K.
Yeah.
You just went out on a Saturday morning and you ran a 5K. And and that's incredible to me that I'm just doing it. And I will say that the trick to all of this, Nike has that slogan of just do it. Just do it. Like, I can't, if I think about it, if I procrastinate, if I put it off, it's not going to happen. But in the morning, I get up, I put my shoes on, I do all the things that I need to do in the morning before that are mandatory that I have to do. Um, but then once that's done, I'm out there and I'm running and I'm not thinking about, well, I'm just going to sit down for a second. Nope.
Yeah.
I just go.
That takes discipline, and it's building the habit, and the other direct and or indirect benefits that you've shared with me that I want you to share with the audience is how some of this, it's done a couple different things. It's changed your relationship with food. It's changed your relationship with me to a certain extent, but it's also changed your relationship with yourself and your own self-image. So how have these things between exercise and changing the way that you eat and think about food, how has that changed um, your own attitude and outlook upon life? We touched on that a little bit, but really what I'm getting at is your body, your body
Mhm.
image and your how you think about your body has completely changed. So talk about that.
So I'm not in a perfect body, I mean, uh, like, if I were to sit there and focus on that, I'd be like, oh, I could lose 20 more pounds. I could be, definitely firmer in these places or whatever. My body is aging, put me next to a 20-year-old and, it's not the same. Um, but I don't focus on that. I see the changes that I've made and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the accomplishment of that and that I've done that. I also realize what's, like, more important is the things that I'm doing that make me feel more in control and calmer and peaceful. I also don't have, like, my worth isn't tied up in how my body looks or what the number on the scale is. Of course, I'm still interested in those things and I always will be, you know. In my 12-step program, we're only supposed to weigh once a month. I don't know how to do that. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I like to check. I like the little dopamine hit or the just checking or whatever, but I also don't tie my worth to that number.
Yeah.
Um, I don't have a good day or a bad day because of what that number says. It's just a number, and I'm happy that it's just a number.
But these shifts also have spilled into your creativity. I've watched you be more creative. You don't have the lulls that there's natural lulls as an author and just everything that we do in life, really, if you stop and think about it, is creative. But how has it affected your creativity and your motivation, not just for focusing on food and body, but other stuff, relationships, your writing?
I think I feel things more because I can name emotions a lot better. I also normal blocks that I had before, or that were normal to me, have lessened a lot more. So I'm able to have closer relationships. I'm not in such victim mode that I'm sitting there thinking about, like, why not me? Like, when it comes to, like, book success and all that. why aren't I getting this? Yeah, my jealousy was huge over everything. I was jealous of everybody. Um, whether they were writers, whether I worked with them and they happened to be younger than me. I'm jealous of them, you know.
Not a
Um,
lot you can
it,
do about that
there
one.
isn't anything you could do about that, but I was jealous of everybody, and I've really become very comfortable in my own skin and who I am and what I'm doing, and have recognized pride in what I'm doing, and recognize the significance of the things that I do and why I'm doing things. I've also been able to take some of my health struggles and in my writing be able to insert them into characters, because I feel like, maybe not every woman um, deals with like a compulsive eating disorder like I do, but everyone does have some sort of societal view of what they're supposed to look like, or um, how they're supposed to be in the world, and how big or small. And for women, we're told to be smaller, 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 and our worth is on how small we can make ourselves. Um, and I write characters that struggle with this and overcome it with, you know, the right kind of nurturing within themselves and with supportive partners. And it's I don't know. I mean, it's been really cathartic to write about that, and it's also just changed my life where I do just feel more calm and more focused now than I did before. Because before, my focus was always on the food. When I would get the food, um, it was always on the next meal. We'd go to events and it would be about like what would they would be serving there. Um, Now things, when we attend things, it's about the people. It's,
Yeah.
the conversations. I will go to like Sean's work events and I won't eat anything because it's hors d'oeuvres and stuff like that. And I'll eat beforehand. I'll bring my own food unapologetically
Yeah.
because it makes me feel safe. So,
So it isn't about those things. It is when you're in the throes of it and you're struggling, but let's flip this script for a second off of you and I in this conversation and look outward to those who may be picking up and listening to this podcast, who are where you were 2 years ago or even before then. What are some things, without pointing them or giving them an answer per se, but what are some things that you could share with those people? Picture one or two people that you're sitting across from who come to you and say, I'm struggling with some food. What do you suggest?
okay. So the first thing um, that I can say from my own journey and my own experience is that any kind of thing that's, feels addictive it usually comes with this sense of isolation where you feel alone or you want to be alone. And there's like a lot of secretiveness about it. And a lot of that keeps that addiction alive while you're trying to figure it out on your own. So my biggest piece of advice is to don't do this alone. Find a friend or a support group. For me, 12 step worked for me, but there are support groups that are out there also. You may have a friend who you guys can partner with each other, maybe share, uh, ways that you guys can encourage each other in your health journeys. When you do it on your own, we are really good at lying to ourselves, lying about our progress, lying about what our part in things are, about what we could be doing, what are any of that, But if you have somebody that's kind of like an accountability partner and your cheerleader, it's so much easier to be able to do it.
That's
So that's one thing. There's other things too. I mean, um, you have to think short term. You can't think of this as for the rest of my life, I will never do such and such thing. But what can you do today? What is the change that you can make today and make that commitment? And so the way that I do that is I make a plan every single morning of what my day is going to be. Today is a running day. Today I am going to eat this, this, and this for my 3 meals. Today I'm going to call my mom. Today, like these things, like don't just let it, be chance. Actually make the plan. And then finally, like, I mean, there's so many other things, but Find
Yeah.
out what's really eating you, because it's usually not the food that's the problem. It's the food is just masking what the problem is. So what is it? The what are the things that are happening when you reach for food? What is that feeling that you're feeling? And the way that I do that is I journal in the mornings, or I journal when I have a strong feeling. I have actually a Google Doc that I keep that I can access from anywhere. And when I'm feeling a strong feeling, I'm opening up that document and I'm writing it out. And almost always the answer comes out to me. It's like, oh, that's what I'm mad at.
Mm.
Oh, that's what that's triggering. It's not even that person, but that person is reminding me of this thing that I need to kind of work through that happened in my childhood. Those are the things that, we tend to pick up our addiction for, and the addiction could be food, it could be turning to social media constantly, it could be alcohol and drugs, it can be compulsive shopping, it could be gambling, it could be any of these things. It's usually not that thing, but it's the thing that it's masking that you need to deal with.
And we're going to end on that note because that is true for so many different obsessive compulsive disorders, if you will, whether it's food, gambling, all those things that you mentioned. But it's looking under at the beneath the water level at the iceberg, and that isn't always easy to do for us. And I am just so appreciative and proud of you for doing the hard work to get to where you're at. I didn't want to get emotional, but just watching this journey and watching it front and center from the beginning and not trying to control anything to where you're at now and fully immersed and seeing the benefits of it. Um, it's a blessing and it's a gift. And that's why we're having this conversation right now because the show's called Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You, but it's not all about greatness. It's about daring to be yourself. And you are living out loud doing yourself or being the best that you can with what you have and you keep getting better and that's a joy to watch and a joy to be a part of.
Thank you.
Folks, this has been Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You. We just had a very deep conversation with Crissi about food addiction and recovery. And if you like the show, like it, share it, tell a friend about it. Keep coming back because this is what we do is we carry messages of hope to those who are still suffering and those who want to have that little bit of inspiration. That's why I started this podcast. I'm not making money on it. This show's for you. Thanks for being here.